Hello. Today we will see about designing a graphical user interface with forms in PHP. This GUI interface means a graphical user interface. Looking at the black and white screen, which is not allowing us to use mouse click or not an colorful screen, having no controls at all, will be a tedious application to handle. So, on the web, of course, we have to switch to graphical user interface for designing an attractive, impressive web applications. So, this graphical user interface may include different controls like button, text box, checkbox, radio button, toggle button, choice, list, etc. Now, how we can design such a graphical user interface that we will see today. These individual components are created, but there has to be one parent or container for holding these components. So, while designing a web page and placing all these controls, we should have the understanding of these basic controls, like we can design a text box, text area, checkbox, radio button, drop down list, scrolling list, push button. So for placing these controls on a container, we will learn about creating a container first, and that is a form. So form will act as a container for holding these controls like a text box, button, checkbox, list, etc. So, how we can design this form in HTML? So, for designing a form, we have a form tag with action attribute. In front of action, we have to give the name of file or the path where we want to jump after clicking a button on this HTML file. In front of method attribute, we can give either get or post option. Get is basic. These methods, get or post, are used for transmission of data. So we are transmitting data from HTML file to the data or file which is mentioned in the action attribute. Or you can say we are transmitting data from front end to the back end. So get or post are methods of transmission of data. So when you want to send a small amount of data which is non-sensitive, means if it is visible to the user and that is okay, then you can use get method. But if you want to send a large amount of data and which is sensitive, you want to protect that data like a password or any sensitive data. So that time you should use post method of form. Now we will see how to design individual user controls on an HTML file. Now for writing an HTML file, we will be using Notepad editor, and for executing that on our web server, which is Apache in XAMPP package. So we will start our XAMPP control panel. We will write our code of HTML file for designing our first web page having different controls like text box, text field, checkbox, radio button. So we will see that how to design a components. So first tag is HTML tag. In the body section, we will create a form with the form tag. As I have stated in front of action, we have to give the name of the file where we want to jump. As of now, we are not writing any code in the f2.php file. Or let us see. And in front of method, we can write get or post. Suppose I am writing post. Now here I want to design a text box in front of name label. So I will be writing label name as it is outside the tag. In front of this, if I want a text box, I will be using input tag where type is the attribute. In type attribute, we have to mention the text. And there may be possibility that I might be using many number of text boxes. So for programming purpose, and we have to identify the text boxes. So we are assigning name to this text boxes in the name attribute. So name of this text box which is in front of name label is UN. Now we will see how it looks. End of form, end of body, end of HTML. Now we will save this file under XAMPP docs with f1.html name. We have to start our local host which is available at 8080, and we have to give the name of our file which is our first web page. So here is the label name which is not editable. It is passive. It is used for display purpose only. And here is the text box where we can enter the text. Now this is a single line editor text box. Even if you click many enter, it will not go to the next line. And this text box is not having scroll bar. But many of the times on the form, we have fields like address. So this single line editor text box is not sufficient. This text box allows 255 characters only, and it is not having any scroll bar, horizontal or vertical, and character limit is also there. So for address field, if I want to design a multi-line editor, so we have another tag that is text area, and here we can give name to this text area as ad or add. And there are two attributes. Rows is equal to, suppose I am giving 20 rows, and calls is equal to, suppose I am giving 30. It means this text area multi-line editor will be designed having name add, and it will be having 20 number of rows visible on the form and 30 character wide width of the this field will be seen or visible on the form, and give the end of the text area tag. Save the file and refresh our file at HTML page. Now this is text area field multi-line editor having 20 number of rows visible at a time, that is the height, and 30 calls. It means 30 characters wide width is available, but you can modify the settings by dragging these lines at the bottom right corner. When we enter a text, and after typing a text, if I click on enter key, the scroll bars get activated whenever required. So this is the text area field. Suppose you want this address field to be shown to the new line, so give break tag after this name field of the form, that is break. So it will appear on the new line. Now if I want to design a text box for password purpose, then we can design it. We can use text box, of course. But the thing is that if we are using the text box for password purpose, sorry, I have written before the, it should be after the end of text area tag. So this password will be visible to all. If you want the password should appear in the special character, so just mention input type is equal to password, and let's check the output. It will appear in the bullets. Now suppose we want to give choices to the user, and our choices are limited in numbers like 3, 4, 5 choices. So for providing choice to the user, which is having only 4 to 5 options, then we can use checkbox or radio button. The checkbox will look like a having a square and label associated with it. Let's try designing a checkbox. Suppose I want discipline option to be selected by user, and I want to design a checkbox. So for that we have a tag input type is equal to, just mention checkbox, and we have to give name to the checkbox. Suppose this, and here give the empty square bracket, because in checkbox we can select multiple options, so that will be saved or taken by this array. Now value is used by the programmer for checking the option that is selected by the user from this checkbox. Like for the text box using, we are using name field. What is the value of text box having name as un? But from the checkbox, as if I want to design three checkboxes, so there will be three input type checkbox option, and the name of all the checkboxes will be same. And I cannot give a single name to all the checkboxes, because as per the characteristics of checkbox we can select multiple option from these names, so that's why we are using array, and that selection will be saved in this array having name this. Now, but for programming, how I can verify which checkbox has been selected? So here square will appear. So I want to give option as a CO, that is computer branch. Here I want to give as a IT, and after this suppose I want a break tag. So whether which option is selected, how we can check that? So that can be checked by using this value attribute. So in front of value, I can write C for CO, I for IT, E for electrical. So it means if I want to check which checkbox is selected, so I will check whether C is selected, or I is selected, or E is selected. I cannot cross check by the name, because the name of all checkboxes are same. So this checkbox designing include the name attribute having name same name for all checkbox with an empty array, and the value attribute which is used for identification purpose. Let's run this code. See, this is the checkbox. Checkbox is having square and label associated with, and it allows multiple selection. So I can select any all application or multiple application from these checkboxes. Now there may be field in the form where we want to allow a single selection, so that can be designed with the help of radio button. So again for radio button we have same thing. So in front of input type just mention radio, and in front of name you can give same name to the radio button. Like suppose this is for gender, then I am giving name as a gen. Now here no need of array, because in radio button it allows only single selection. So of course from in if any of the option is selected from gender, male or female, then it will be only one option. So for value attribute I can give m and here f. Let's run this code. So this is radio button, which looks like a circle and label associated with it, and we can select a single item from this option. So that's why in the name attribute we have a same name for radio button group, which belong to the same group, but there is no need of empty array because it allows a single selection. Suppose again for the discipline, if I want the radio button itself, then I can do that. But now the group of this radio button will be different. It will not belong to gen, that is gender field, because what we want from the gender radio button, one selection should be allowed from this gen radio button. And again, I want discipline should appear in the radio button and there should be only one selection should be there from the user side. So I can give another name to this radio button group. So what will happen from this gen radio group, only one option will be selected, and from this dis radio group, one option will be selected. If I give the same name to all radio button, it means there will be only one selection from gender group, that is either, let's try this. Suppose I have given same name for all the radio button on the form. Let's see what will happen. So if I select gender as a female, and now if I select CO, the female selection disappears. So what has done, from the group all the radio buttons are treated as in the single group, because we have mentioned the same name. If you want this group should be different from this discipline group, then we have to create two groups. So if you have given gen name over here, we can give suppose a disc name for all the branches over here. So there will be two different group for this radio button. Now let's try the selection from gender female and from discipline CO. So it allowed us to select one option from the gender field and one option from the discipline field. So this is the difference between checkbox and radio button. Now this checkbox or radio button field is okay when you have only 4 to 5 options to be shown on the form. But suppose you if you have field having 50 plus option, 20 plus option, or 10 plus option to be displayed to the user, this checkbox and radio button will not look good on the form, because it occupies a more space and there will be so confusion over the form. So when you have multiple options to be displayed to the user, we can design a list. Now there are two types of list that we can design. Suppose I want to give option for the color field. So the list is designed with the select tag, and we can give name to the list over here and close the select start select tag. Now all the elements in the list are mentioned in the option tag. You can enter as many options as you want. Suppose I am giving the name of colors in the list, and we will check how this list appears on the form and end of the select tag. Here list will end. Refresh the file. So this type of list that we have designed using select tag having only name attribute will create a drop down list. It means only one item will be visible on the screen and the rest of the element will be visible when we click on the drop down arrow, and it allows only single selection from the list. If we select item, it will be taken as a selected one. Now, if you want to give a choice to the user for multiple selection, so instead of this drop down list, we can go for another type of list. Same option I am taking with the just here in front of select name, we have to give the empty array in the name field, and just after the space write multiple. So it will allow multiple option to be selected from this given option. So this type of list is known as a scrolling list. Let's see how it appears. So this second list has appeared on this form having multiple list. So as of now, it is allowing a by default a single click allows us to select single item. If you want to select multiple item, you have to use control key on the keyboard and the mouse pointer to select or deselect the item. So this is the scrolling list. As you as you increase the option in the list, the scroll bars will be activated automatically like this. So these are the two types of list, drop down list and scrolling list. So this is drop down list and this is the scrolling list. Both are designed with the help of select tag and end of select tag, and the elements are mentioned in the option and end of option tag. Now we have seen all the basic control. Now we will see the important control, that is a push button, which is of course a trigger point to the for interactive application. Now there are two types of button, and buttons are designed with the input tag. Input type is equal to submit. This is first type of button. Here we can give the name to this button, and in front of value we can give the caption or text that we want to show on this button. Suppose now the button will be created which is OK type wala button, and here the text will be displayed on that button as a register. Let's see. So this is register button. And second type of button is always we can have on the form, which is good one to have. That type of button is reset type of button. And suppose now name is cancel, and suppose I am displaying caption or text as a clear. Refresh. So whenever we fill data in the form, we perform the operations and we enter the data, and when we click on register, that is submit type of button, then it will jump to the path which we have mentioned in the action attribute of the form. So when I will click on this register button, which is submit type of button, it will jump to f2.php. Let's see register. It has jumped to f2.php. Now whichever is the f2.php file will run and it will show the output. Now when we have filled the form and when we click on this reset type of button having clear text, it will flush out the contents of the control on the GUI form. It will remove all the details and it will refresh the page for us. So this is how we can design a GUI control on the form using HTML page. In the next session, we will see how to validate these controls, and how to write the PHP code for this validating all these controls. So see you in the next session. Thank you.